A product that became about from a concept that now is a company that's going to allow farmers to decrease or even eliminate their applications of synthetic nitrogen. This is a big deal. It's an entrepreneurial story, it's an environmental story, and it's an agricultural story, which is why we're covering it here on the Business of Agriculture. Are you looking for productive efficiencies in growing higher yielding, better performing crops? New Fields Ag provides a complete portfolio of biological products focused on you, the farmer. Visit newfieldsag.com for more information to help you farm better. Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Business of Agriculture. Got a great one for you today. I've got an entrepreneur and a farmer, and the farmer doesn't even fit any of the boxes. I mean, he didn't check any of the boxes, except that he's Dutch and he's also tall and cheap. We know those two goes together. Anyway, his name's Matt Vanderhyde. He's almost my buddy now, but we've only actually met face-to-face once. It was at Commodity Classic. He is a farmer in Western Michigan. He dairies, he's got an engineering background, and he also is agronomically oriented, which most dairymen are not. He even admitted that. Before I hit record on this. He's a dealer for a company called Green Lightning, and the product is Green Lightning, and it's this idea that we can take the nitrogen that is in the air, 78% I think of ambient air is nitrogen, and actually utilize it and get it into our crop versus all of the expensive, environmentally sometimes damaging synthetic fertility. The company was founded by Travis Potter, who is an organic guy with a rich entrepreneurial story. He's out of Kentucky. The company called Green Lighting. Mr. Vanderhyde, you approached me about this, and I said, I'm interested because I see already nitrates in the water in Wisconsin, boatloads of headlines, lots of environmental movement, regulatory movement. Our actions are being watched more in agriculture. I think this is the future. Why'd you get into this?
Well, we care about those things, but really we wanted to just save money. That was the big thing for us right off, is that I went to a conference, was the first time I heard about it, and they talked about, yeah, you can start making nitrogen on your own farm. Brought it back to my dad and my brother, and they're like, hey, no way does that work. But then just like a lot of the other things you hear about in farming.
Were farmers skeptical? Wait a minute, you just told me that farmers were skeptical. I've never heard of this. I've never heard.
I know it's a developing concept here, but yeah. So, but then I started asking around, and we went to a planter startup meeting for precision planting, and they said, hey, I think something like this is being tried on our research farm. And we're actually doing kind of a roadshow in a couple of weeks. And so I ended up going to the roadshow, which Jason Webster put on, and he talked about how great of results he had. And I was like, wow, we really should look into this. And that's kind of where I started with Green Lightning. We bought our machine, and then we ended up selling them. So,
yeah. So you used it for a few years, and now you're a dealer for this. Mr. Potter, I want to hear your backstory, what led you into this, and then I got to hear about how it works. But almost give me a teaser. This sounds too good to be true. This is like magic rays. So is this real? Does this work?
It is real. It works. A lot of people say that same thing. It's too good to be true. The reality is we have 78% nitrogen that we breathe. We just need to unlock that. And we do that through the same way that is done with lightning in a storm. If you ever see a storm come through the next day after a lightning storm, it's always greener, and you're wondering what the heck that is. That term is called green lightning. We thought it was cool, make a fun brand, and let's put it on a piece of equipment and sell it to people. So that's what we do. So we could have come out with just a product that we would sell to people that happens to do the same thing as the nitrogen that they're getting from other places. But we decided we want to be scrappier and give people a piece of equipment that they can make their own. And on the farm, they could take air and water and electricity and make nitrogen on the fly. It looks like water, smells like water, tastes like water. But when you put on too much of it, you notice on your crop because you probably put too much on it. It's not working like it should. It got yellow like we saw some today where it burnt it. It does work really well. It works. My first time seeing it, I tried on tomatoes, and I basically called them Lazarus tomatoes. They were basically dead in August, and I put them on there, and they came to life, and the ones next to it did not. So the kind of backstory is as an organic farmer, started about 2000.
I got to tell you something. You might be the fastest speaking Kentuckian I have ever had a conversation with in my
imported into Kentucky, all right?
Huh?
I'm imported into Kentucky. I'm not from Kentucky.
Okay,
Maybe an ancestor.
so anyway, I got to just pause you pause you for a second. You
Yep.
came up with this idea. You and you've got a partner came up with this idea, which I think we've all probably wondered this in agriculture. Why are we spending so much money to apply nitrogen when it's the most prevalent thing in our atmosphere in terms of the what we breathe? It's not a new
Exactly right.
thought, but how the hell do you use it? And so who came up with this?
So two things were happening. One was Joe already figured it out. I met Joe and he could only make a gallon of this stuff a day when I first met him. And I was making nitrogen coffee, nitrogen ice cream, putting nitrogen in our meats and our dairy products to extend shelf life. I've been doing it. And I was like, why can't I take that and put it in the crops the same way? There's got to be a way to do it. I met Joe and we became partners when I figured out the stuff worked. And that was the beginning of it. The average farmer uses the Haber-Bosch product that's about 120 years old. What did we do before that? It was still available. We just did it in different ways. This is not a new technology. This is as old as creation. The sun is made from plasma. The stars are made from plasma. The northern lights are made from plasma. We call it plasma. We think of it as blood, but it kind of freaks people out. But the reality is we're making plasma activated water, which is taking nitrogen and oxygen and some minerals that are in the air, and we're making it into a product that feeds the plant exactly what it wants. Nitrates, not just nitrites and ammonia and the other things that typical farmers use, but we're giving it exactly what the plant wants, not all the extra.
Matt, you came back to the farm and rattled off just a part of what we just heard from Mr. Potter, and I can see where your brother and dad said, no, this didn't sound right.
Yeah.
What okay, first off, we started making synthetic nitrogen. You just said, Travis, using the Haber-Bosch method, which means what? Explosion and heat and deriving nitrogen out of the air that we could then make a product. That began a century or so ago, right?
Yeah, so that process is, gases and air and a few other chemicals coming together that makes the nitrogen that we're used to. That we're used to putting on crops. Urea's got it's got ammonia, it's got a nitrate and nitrite. It has very little nitrate in comparison. Ours is what we do is just water and primarily nitrate. We're just giving the plant what it's after at the end of the day, anyways, and no salt.
I got to know how it works. Before I do that, I want to hear then first off, what's the difference between a nitrate and a nitrite?
So nitrate is what the plant's after. Nitrite is what it converts from nitrite into nitrate using bacteria or inside the plant. That's really what most people use that. That's why we have runoff and makes nitrates later, is because it didn't make it in the plant in time and it washed off with salt down the river and through the woods to the ocean or wherever.
So in our typical process, when you put manure out or you put 28% nitrogen, UAN or whatever it is, that goes down in the form. It's a NH3 or NH4. Bacteria turn that into NO2, which is nitrite. More bacteria turn that into NO3, which is nitrate, which is the form that the plant uses.
It changes form 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Actually, it's changes form 2 times. It starts as the first one. All right.
Yeah.
You're a farmer, so bring me to the business side of this, not the dealing side, but the actual use of the side. How do I use it, and how does it work? Whichever one you want to start. You can talk how to use it as a farmer, or how it works. You can go with that, Mr. Vanderhyde.
So it's a machine on your own farm, and so you basically hook up water and electricity to it. You plug the machine into a wall for the smaller ones.
So
we hook up water.
Is this machine the size of a blender? Is this machine the size of a electric generator? How big is this machine?
So we have different sizes, from one that's the size of like a large coffee maker, because basically what it is, it's a number of heads. Each head does the chemical reaction, and so we can get about 17 gallons a day out of each head. So you can have a single head which does 17 gallons a day. Our typical one is a 6 head, which sits on top of a regular like IBC tote. So you were talking about, a little over 5 feet tall and 4 feet by 4 feet. And then we're coming out with what we call our filling stations, which will be 30 head up to 300 head. So the 300 head is in a 40-foot shipping station. And that unit will make upwards of 6,000 gallons a day of material. So we have any side that you need based on what size farm you are, basically.
Okay, so at your farm, what do you use?
We just have a 6 head right now.
And six head thing plugs into the
six head
wall, and
makes 100 gallons a day.
Six head is a 6 head is the small size of a refrigerator.
Yep.
Yeah, essentially, right? You've got your typical tote that your chemical comes in, right? Basically, we set the machine on top of that, and it drops down into there, and it makes about 100 gallons a day. And every couple of days, we automatically pump it out into a larger storage tank.
And I'm making 100 gallons of using water from my hose,
water from your hose, and air,
and electricity.
So that water comes in. It's a mist. It's a mix of air and water gets sprayed through an 8-micron Venturi valve, creating a mist, and then it sprays through a plasma chamber, which is essentially just a set of blades with electricity plasma arcing in between it, and that causes that chemical reaction to break the N2 bond, and then that nitrogen molecule looks for something else to bind onto, starts bonding onto oxygen, where we make NO3. And then those water droplets carry that, and they just fall out of the bottom and sit in the tank there and kind of percolate for a little bit.
Okay, so what's in the tank then that I have 100 gallons of after the end of the day?
Mostly nitrate NO3 with the water. We have some nitrite. It makes a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, and it will also gas off a little bit of ozone. I think that's about it, right, Travis?
It's basically water. It's got some extra energy in it too, and nitrate, NO3. That's primarily what you're after.
Then so I take that product and then Matt puts it into a tank. Where do I go from there?
So we've had people apply it several different ways in our field. So we replace it right for your UAN or whatever. We found that it's best in season. We've had people put it on through pivots for fertigation. For our farm, we actually knifed it in a side dress application. So we actually, in our test, we did every other pass with 28. And then in the end, our yields came out just the same.
So I was going to say, so if I think of, okay, I got anhydrous, and then I've got dry granular, but I've got anhydrous, and then I've got 28%, and I've got now this product that Green Lightning has made me, my Green Lightning machine has made me, and I've got this stuff, and I've got to put it in a tank. I could dribble it on. You
can dribble it on. You can put it on foliar. So we actually think foliar is the most efficient way because it's coming from air and water. It doesn't have any salt, so it's not going to burn the way that your regular, 28% or 32% would. I'm
so not an agronomist, Travis. But my first thing was going to say foliar. It seems like it would burn the plant, and he went right there. I can see why you got this guy selling the stuff for you. I put it on. Mostly, I'm putting this on a corn crop. Where else is it being used? Where else are you using it in Michigan?
Wheat is a big one as well, but we've had a lot of good potato trials. So we've got some potatoes, but Travis, you can go on the list of the number of different crops that we're trying it on. It's extensive.
The thing is, it's always used as a liquid, right? The product is a liquid. Period.
Yes.
Yep.
We don't derive it. We don't do a derivative on down from there and use it any other way.
Here's a jar of it right here. It looks like water. You can't tell.
Actually, you know what? Sometimes in different parts of the world, they pull out a mason jar from under their desk on an afternoon. And
that's white lightning, I think.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, because that's not green lightning. That's something else. And it'll make you nuts. And you won't care too much about a lot of things after you have a little bit of that. All right. What about the analysis then? So compared to like a 28%, what's the analysis?
It doesn't weigh the same. It's not salt-based. Matt, you can go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because it doesn't have salt, we cannot measure it the same way as regular nitrogen. And so the way we go about it is basically measuring the effectiveness. So if we put a gallon of this on and a gallon of 28, what kind of yield response do we get? And that's the best way, because if you go to measure it, how do they measure the amount of nitrogen in something? Is they use electroconductivity, which is essentially the amount of salt in it. So if we can find a lab that could do this the right way and figure it out, we would love it. But it's been sent out to hundreds of different labs, and nobody can measure it appropriately.
Understood.
To measure what really is there.
You're recommending usage at an equivalent rate to 28%.
Essentially, yep.
Essentially. Okay, I want to hear more about this. Speaking of plant health, I want to tell you about Redox, a company that is trying to help you with high-tech plant nutrition provided by Redox Bionutrients, which is a family-owned company in business since 1994, headquartered up there in Burley, Idaho, founded by Darren Moon. I've been to their headquarters twice. Started out in specialty crop, moved on to turf, from turf now to broad acre. Increasingly, Redox provides superior nutrition with biostimulants focused on maintaining plant charge balance. All nutrients have a positive or a negative charge. Maintaining the charge balance allows your plants to focus on yield and quality with improved performance come harvest time. You can find out more, including detailed product information and the Redox Grows podcast, including episodes with me. That's right, I've been on it at redoxgrows.com. That's redoxgrows.com. Check it out. Great folks up there. In a year like this, you got to look for every opportunity to cut back on your traditional applied inputs, and maybe Redox can help you, just like Green Lightning can help you. Okay, so you're using this. Your recommended use is use this just like you would use 28%. And so, Matt, I want to go now to Travis. You've got to have a lot of skepticism, clearly. How big is this? I got a guy in Western Michigan using it. He's an early adopter. He's got the engineering type background. I can see it having a bit of skepticism, but seeing is believing. Tell me how it's going.
Okay, so we have no social media. And last March, we launched our first 3 machines where we actually sold them. And since then, we have 700 machines in 20 countries on 50 crops.
Okay, so you went from zero until, and what was the time frame again?
Since last March, so 13 months.
Yeah, we're recording this, just for the record, we're recording this mid-April of 2025. Got it. So in 13 months, you went from...
We went from 3 machines being out in the field to 700 in 20 countries. Okay. And with no social media, just word of mouth. And that tells you that people are using them, it's working, and we're moving a lot of them. A lot of people don't have nitrogen access. A lot of them don't want to pay for nitrogen, and a lot of them want to get rid of some of their other chemicals, and we're doing all that.
Can you make I've said it's an environmental story, it's an entrepreneurial story, it's maybe a future story. Can you make the argument that this is better for the environment? I mean, I think you can, but...
Let's just go to salt. If we get rid of the salt on the ground, is that better for the environment?
Yeah.
It is. So if we don't have salt, then the bacteria is doing what they're supposed to be doing in soil. We're having amazing results on the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria growing and getting rid of some of the bad stuff. And it also increases the mycorrhizal fungi. It's doing not just nitrogen stuff. It's amplifying the ground, and we're not carrying the salt's not carrying our stuff or anything else out to the ocean because it's limited. The salt keeps on taking things to places where it shouldn't go. That's what our big problems are environmentally.
I think the maybe when you note comparing it to manure or a dry or 28%, I think the big comparison is that nasty anhydrous that will blind you. It arguably beats the crap out of your soil life. I think that the big opportunity here is growing away from that. I don't know, Mr. Vanderhyde, am I right about that?
Yep. Oh, sorry. I thought I had silence still.
Matt, you should drink some while you're there and show them the difference. Would you drink anhydrous? No, but our stuff, you can drink it. It'll turn into nitric oxide in your body. It's a good thing.
Well, and I'm not the agronomic expert here, but we've been blowing nitrogen via anhydrous into the ground for a long time, and it's got some very destructive side effects. I mean, it's like chemotherapy. Yeah, it might kill the cancer. It also might kill you. I mean, that's where I think that anhydrous is in my book.
Yeah, so we have some really funny stories that we've had of guys that have mixed it with their biologicals, and some of them were bottling it, and they came back the next day, and the activity was so great it popped the tops off of the jugs, the microbial activity. Other guys it typically takes 3 days or whatnot to brew their microbial compost tea, and they came back the next day and it had overflowed their whole unit and flooded the floor and everything. So we've seen this work very good with the biologicals, whereas anhydrous is probably killing a lot of that stuff. So I think aside from just getting the nitrogen, the things we're seeing that it helps the entire soil microbe population. I think that's something that we don't think a lot about, that people are starting to really take notice of.
So not shipping stuff around the world. You're making it on the same farm. You don't have to drive it from anywhere. You're not burning extra whatever to get it there. It's right there. You're using your own water and air. It's non-toxic. You throw it on there, and you're growing the same crop as you normally would with chemicals from all around the world.
I agree with all that. Now, the next question along those lines, with my friends over at XtremeAg, I've done a lot of recordings of the Cutting the Curve podcast, which I also host, and at least several of them we've done about water. And all water is not the same. In fact, water from one farm to the next, and the water you use for irrigation, and then also the water you fill your sprayer tank. We've got examples of true yield penalties by using water because it had too much calcium, and then obviously it changed the components in the stuff you were putting in the spray rig. How does the water affect this? Seems to me all water's not created equally, and it's got a bunch of different stuff in it. Can I expect the same thing from Matt's farm in Western Michigan to my farm in Northeast Indiana when I take water from my well to make this stuff?
You can now. A year ago, we didn't know that.
This is a lesson we learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Tell me
we
the
have a
lesson.
built-in RO
What
system
was the
now.
lesson? So somebody said, wait a minute, I did this just like you, and I didn't get the same results. I imagine that was it.
It was more like the machine caught on fire because it made toothpaste inside of it with calcium from the water being 2,500 TDS from the Mississippi River. So we learned that the water is very different from Florida to the Midwest to Idaho or Canada. And so we had to standardize the water. So when the water comes in, we filter it, we process it, the bad minerals out, and then we clean that water to basically rainwater level, so it's consistent from Michigan to Africa.
So the infrastructure that I have to put in to make my own nitrogen is I need to buy this unit from you in any size, from the little teeny one that Matt talked about to the one that's great big. And I get that unit, but then I also need some kind of a water filtration purification system.
No, we already
That
have
comes
that
with
built
it.
in.
Wait,
Yeah, built in
go ahead,
now.
Travis.
Yeah, no, it's already built in. We didn't used to have that, but it's built in now. So it doesn't
So
matter.
I don't need a water filtration system, then this, then this, then this, then your thing.
No, we did that before. It was a nightmare. We just built it right into the machine, so we don't have to mess with it. Then you just change your filter every 3 to 6 months, depending on how bad your water is.
Okay, Matt, you're getting ready to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only other thing that iron, because it's a reverse osmosis system, the only other thing we worry about is iron, because iron will plug up the membranes of a reverse osmosis system. But other than that, the machine can basically handle whatever you throw at it. It's what it's made to handle now.
Understood. All right. So the entrepreneur, we talked about the thing here. Now we got to talk about the economics. It seems to me, I have no idea what your machine costs, but if I'm growing anything that demands nitrogen, which would mean anything other than legumes in general, I need this product. But what's your economic pitch? If I'm cheap like Matt and I come to you, what is my economic pitch? How much acres do I need, or how much usage of product do I need to justify buying this?
If you buy one of our 6-head machines, it's going to do 500 to 600 acres of corn, depending on if you're using 200 to 220 pounds of N typically a year, and you're going to keep that going year round. It's going to pay for itself the first season. It's $44,000 for a machine. You're saving about 60 grand a year by running this machine, maybe 80 depending on the cost of nitrogen. Your electricity cost is about 12 to 1,500 bucks a year to run it.
Okay.
And then you need tanks to put it in, and you need to be able to spray it.
So that's the thing that Matt, you talked about, the amount of output. I can't, hey, we're going to put nitrogen on tomorrow, turn on the rig. No, you need to turn the rig on 3-4 weeks ago, because I need
24/7. Just keep it going. 24/7.
year
Just
round.
keep it going. Yeah.
Basically, that's what it's made to do.
Okay, so yours is running is yours at the Vanderhyde farm running nonstop?
Yeah, we shut down for the winter because we weren't set up for that much storage. But going forward, that is the plan, to have that and going 24/7.
So you got going into a 1,000-gallon tank. Then from there, you pump off into a 10,000-gallon tank or something.
Yeah, Yeah. And there's guys doing that all sorts of different ways. And so the other thing you have to think about a little bit, because it does not have salt in it, it will freeze, unlike UAN.
Yeah.
And so we have to either keep it moving or store it underground or keep a heater in it, depending on where you live,
Or you
different
can
kind of
put it
things.
in an actual facility.
In Michigan, we got to worry about that. Yeah. So that's some other considerations too.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of larger farming operations that have a building that's got all of their chemistry, et cetera, in it, and it's kept at least 50 or 45 degrees.
Absolutely. So that's something that farmers have to think about, that it has to be a consideration. But when we're looking at it, so the six head machine runs on 1,100 watts of electricity, which the math on our farm, it was like $3.72 a day is what it came out to. We make 100 gallons, so we're paying less than 4 cents a gallon, versus a 28 is, depending on what you're paying. Last year, it came out to 72 cents a gallon when we paid $335 a ton. So our savings is in the 98% range when we do that.
Yeah.
So it pays for itself pretty quickly with that kind of math.
So the economic argument is there. The fertility argument, you've done trials.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to get into the other naysaying stuff. Before I do, I got to remind you about money. We all need money. Funding your farm, ranch, or agribusiness does not have to be hard. Your operation is unique. Why should you try to fit a square peg into a round hole with one-size-fits-all ag credit? I'm talking about Harvest Returns. Harvest Returns is my sponsor here at the Business of Agriculture, and they are here to help. They understand that every agribusiness is different. You know what? You've got your ag lender, and you got your farm credits. Great people. They're a client of mine, Farm Credit. Ag lender groups, been clients of mine. Wonderful. But what if this is something that's just off their reservation? They don't know quite how to fund it. You need money. You can make this thing happen with your agribusiness. With a pool of over 18,000 investors and creative financing options, Harvest Returns can bring the capital you need to reach your goals. Visit harvestreturns.com. That's right, www.harvestreturns.com to learn more about how you can get started with growing your operation today. From the entrepreneurial side, I understand it. From the environmental side, yep, it's a good argument. No salt, et cetera, et cetera. Less damaging, like anhydrous beats the crap out of all your soil biology and all that. Then there's the other one, like how to make it work on your farm. You just explained it. Put it in there. I'm sold. Then you come up with the economics. 4 cents a gallon versus, what'd you say? 4 cents versus 78 cents or something?
72 last year. It's probably more like 60 this year, I would say. It's a little bit cheaper than it was before, but not too much.
Ease of use, anything there?
I mean, you are the factory, right?
I tell my CBD people this. I used to have a CBD guy in my one of my business groups, and CBD'd everything. It fixed glaucoma, and it kept your mother happy, and it also made your dog's hip joints feel better. And I said, everything can't be amazing, otherwise people are going to start calling bullshit on this. Is there anything that is like you're going to have to admit and say, yeah, there's a few considerations that are not perfect for this product?
Well, you are the factory, so you have to keep tabs on it, right? And this thing is running all the time. So
if I get something from the co-op, and it don't work right, I got recourse. For this, I'm the factory.
Exactly, right? And so we have to keep tabs on it. I would say that is the biggest problem with it is you're the factory. You have to run it. You have to keep your eyes on it. And we're still learning a lot about. We're still learning about the best ways to apply and application rates, and so it's a little bit of guessing game on the best way for different crops and how it works and what's happening with it, because it doesn't react the same as regular nitrogen. It's more than that. It's doing a lot of other things.
Travis, have you heard any compatibility problems? Anything like your guy in Zimbabwe called up and said, "I really like this. It's a great concept, but."
I had a couple of things last year where we had guys that were not sure if it worked right. It ended up being the machine wasn't working as good as it should. We had to change the pH in the water by having the minerals on there. So that was a big deal. We did have a problem with the herbicide. We realized it was actually a good thing, but herbicide does all kinds of things that's negative for the environment as well. We had guys that were using it with the herbicide, which a lot of guys did, but they didn't need near as much. They only needed 30% as much herbicide to do the same thing because ours made theirs hotter. Now that comes back to what you had talked about. If you have sticky water, you're probably going to have to use more chemicals anyways. Ours cleans it and it makes that chemical work better, so you don't need to put as much on there. And so it's a learning curve. if guys are put it on, and like we had a guy burn some of his corn that was ready for the herbicide, and so he pulled back, and I didn't kill it, but he pulled back, and he only needed 30 or 40% as much. Same thing with a guy with soy and a guy with wheat, that they use it as their carrier. So most guys use it whenever they would typically use water. They use ours as well. It does make it hotter. It's low pH, so it's going to make that product work a little better than if it was 8 pH water that you're typically using. A lot of guys are able to get rid of some of those chemical costs as well, but that's something that we're still learning, like what works, what doesn't. We know that if you add a little molasses to it, it makes the biology work better in the soil. If you use humics and fulvics, kind of the same thing. It's
so
amplifying
a carbon or a sugar. Gives it it's almost like an adjuvant effect, or is that what I'm hearing here?
Two things. One, it sticks to the plant, but the other one, on the ground, it's making that biology work a little bit faster because it's feeding the microbes, because microbes love sugar and nitrogen. So you give them both, and we're making extra oxygen. There's dissolved oxygen in our product naturally. So when you feed that extra oxygen to bacteria mixed with sugar, boom, you've got a lot of amazing things happening. That's why he was saying, like, when we put it in the tank, where typically it would take 3 days. Now it's foaming out of the tank, and it's all over the shop. Like, that's one of those things you're like, I guess I only need it for 9 hours instead of for 3 days. We're still learning some of those things. And we're having farmers that, it doesn't work in a metal tank, doesn't work in a plastic tank. We found metal tanks tend to lose efficacy over time. So we found out putting a little bit of carbon in with it makes it so that it doesn't lose it. We didn't realize
either put it in a plastic tank or throw carbon in it to make it last. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. So if a guy's putting it, making product in September and wanted to put on in February, or March, he needs to put a little something in there. We're fine. And we didn't know that last year. We do now. So that's if it's in a metal tank. A plastic tank seems to work. We're not sure why. We're testing all that kind of stuff now. So that's one of those things where, if a guy has pH right and his TDS was right and it was running like it should, and all of a sudden he tests it later on, he needs to send it in to us to make sure that we can test it and tell him if there's a problem with it, if there's a problem. That's just one of those extra precautionary, like, hey, I'm gonna put this on. I want to make sure it's at the level it should be. Or if a guy has his water hose down low and he's making it stronger, what does it do? Well, you're not going to want to put on as much per acre. You're going to pull back a little bit. Yeah.
Matt Vanderhyde, 700 units have been sold. How many from you? I'm hoping half. If not, I might go into competition. I might go into competition and just straight out sell you.
I mean, I had a good start. We took off quite a few. Now I kind of oversee 5 states currently. So, under that whole group, we're kind of the biggest area. I do Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So that's been kind of a hub of a lot of the action. So that area might have had a couple of hundred. So how many of those I was involved in, I don't even know at this point.
Where does this go? I can think of a lot of fertility companies and retail companies that would like you to not succeed with this. Where does this go, Travis?
A lot of guys say that they think we're taking out somebody else's business, but a lot of the co-ops and fertility companies are calling us, asking us to buy our machines to add to their product because it's cheaper than what they're making now. So I think we become an add-on to what they're already doing, as well as doing our own thing. And we just get smarter about agriculture in general. Entrepreneurialism.
We all know this works. There's been a lot of brilliant ideas and brilliant engineering that then got stolen by somebody with deeper pockets, and then they end up running with your idea. Is this going to get stolen from you?
We have a lot of patents. It'd be hard for and really good attorneys. It's going to be hard for somebody to steal it, as well as the technology is super difficult to understand and how to operate it. It's not just, hooking up some 220 or 110 to some, and running water through it. There's a lot to it. Joe's been working on it for, over 15 years hard, and he's a brilliant guy. So he's figured out how to do things that nobody else has ever done. Plasma is not a new technology. It's been around since creation, but the way that he figured it out, we're by far the most efficient on the planet from anybody else that's doing anything that with even close to this technology.
Does this excite you, Mr.
So yeah, if you look, you can Google plasma activated water and you can find TED Talks and white papers and things like that. They go way back. You can find them at least a decade old, talking about all different sorts of studies. What Green Lightning figured out how to do is they do it like with 1/2000th of the electricity that anybody else has done before. So the technology in itself is not new at all. It's just they made a big breakthrough and to make it economically viable.
And we know how to talk farmer.
Speaking of farmers, and we're going to end here with my farmer friend. This excites you. I mean, you probably you get approached. You're a business guy. You probably get approached. People want you to buy into their product. This one excites you.
Yeah, I came back to the farm about 8 years ago, and kind of looking to see what the next step was for our farm, how we move into the future. And so we were looking at all sorts of different technologies. A big thing that got me into Green Lightning is we were going to launch a custom drone application business. And I thought, well, if I can apply late season nitrogen and not burn the crop, that could be a differentiator for me in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So, I observe all sorts of different technologies, and this has been, by and large, one of the most exciting things that I've come across in the last several years that we've looked for the legacy of our farm and building onto our farm. So it's been a really exciting trip for sure.
If the person listening or watching this, and by the way, if you are listening, I encourage you to watch it. Been building up the following on YouTube, finally focused on it this year. Go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It doesn't cost anything. Just go into YouTube, type in Damian Mason. My channel will pop up, hit subscribe. You can also watch me on Acres TV. And if you enjoy watching all the stuff that we release, remember, I'm doing all my stuff for XtremeAg and also our new show, The Granary, which was recorded right there at my on-farm tavern in Huntington, Indiana, sitting with the guys talking about everything involving agriculture from the personal to the professional. So go to XtremeAg.farm and check out the Granary episodes. If somebody wants to learn more about this, Travis Powder, where do they go?
Greenlightning.ag. Go there.
Greenlightning.ag.
Yep.
That's awesome. His name is Travis Powder. The company is called Green Lightning. You heard from him, the founder, along with, what is it? What do you call him? Nitro Joe?
Nitro Joe.
Nitro Joe, his business partner, who's a nitrogen genius. And then you're talking also to Matt Vanderhyde, who is a Western Michigan farmer and dealer of this product, Green Lightning. I assume at Green Lightning they can find you if they want to learn more about this. Till next time, guys, thanks for being here. I really like this. Educational, entrepreneurial. It's got an environmental play. It's got a bunch of different, the economic side of it, I think, is fascinating. So thanks for being here. Thanks for looking me up at Commodity Classic, where I was with my friends from XtremeAg. Till next time, thanks for being here. Share this with somebody that might benefit from it. I'm Damian Mason, and this is The Business of Agriculture. This episode of The Business of Agriculture was brought to you by my friends at New Fields Ag. American made, American owned, focusing on the success of the American farmer. That's New Fields Ag, offering a complete lineup of high-performing biological products for you, the American farmer. Visit newfieldsag.com for more.